Coin traders, how we doing, ICP fam? Thanks for joining me for the show. Looking at ICP, Internet Computer, nice day and nice rebound on the current move. So lots to be looking at right now. Now we are running up and running right into these exponential moving averages like we had talked about in the previous video. And so especially right now, running into the 12-period EMA 1382.8 is the price for that. So barely just above that. Now we do have about 6 hours left on the current daily candle. And as you can see, long lower shadow now about the length of the body. And right now for the current daily candle, we are up about over 8%. So a lot of good things to be looking at right now, especially after seeing a little bit of increased bullish volume as well, especially after coming off of this bullish candle from yesterday. So getting a little bit more of that follow through, especially after this fake out. Now, if we actually turn down into the 4-hour chart, you can see how we did get an initial sell-off right in between these exponential moving averages. But after we did break, and this is the 4-hour chart again, by the way, after breaking this 12-period EMA, broke through the and the 26, flushed, and then now finally had a very nice close, and now getting that follow through on top of this very resistive 50-period EMA. So we are getting a little bit more of this bullish cross already. So we are getting a rollover in an attempt to actually flip this back bullish. Very good sign right now, especially after such a big retracement coming off of the trend high right now that did top out at almost 21 at 20.96. So retracement from the top down to the low, we're looking at about 48%. So a pretty good retracement, not as much as a lot of other cryptos, but obviously like we looked at in the daily, it was a very nice breakout. So return to this, still maintaining daily higher lows compared to what we saw on the initial pullback when we bottomed at 1056. So overall, still looking at a pretty good trend line on this daily. So we do have support coming in and obviously kicking off a lot of closing support. So big support before hitting this trend high. Basically a touch on this instance, another test and touch running up to the current trend high, pulling back and establishing very nice price level, trend line support on this trend line. So now if we do actually want to look at price level support coming in on the bounce, very strong and very nice defense from the bulls at this level, which we actually expected just based on how much price volume trading there was previously during this whole period. Whoa, what is going on? During this whole price period of basically more or less sideways chop. So we knew that this was going to be a very strong support level on this retracement, just like we talk about when we do run up and establish resistance in an overall longer term chop type pattern. It is very supportive on the return. So seeing that right now play out, especially turning on VPVR, volume profile, visible range, dipped a little bit below center point of mass, but right now we are looking at seeing prices above that. So center point of mass right now coming in just shy of the $13 level. Since we are above that, about to rally up to the $14 level. Hopefully this can be confirmed, especially if we do get a very nice close of this candle on the daily in about 6 hours, confirming this as a nice period of support, and then hopefully being able to establish this as a nice period, confirm it as a little bit more of a sideways action range, establish this zone as that nice support and be back on our way again. I don't see necessarily a huge run up to return to the trend high right now, but obviously anything can happen in crypto. But realistically, especially being this far under the exponential moving averages and having this far of a retracement from the low, we aren't necessarily expecting an immediate run up unless we just get a huge flood of bullish volume. But anyway, nonetheless, I digress. Plenty of upside resistances to talk about. First, we are going to be looking up at 1463. Next, after that, we are going to be looking up at 1537 before finally running up to about 1689 and then the 19 and 20 plus dollar level. So plenty to be looking at on the upside. Flipping over into the 2-day chart now, you can see we are running up and breaking back above the 50-period EMA that we did flip below, so did hold it for 2 candles below. So obviously to get and reclaim this as a support would be extremely nice and helpful, and also protect and defend the 12 and 26 from having a bearish cross on those EMAs. That would be extremely nice and helpful to see for these longer term charts. But so as you can see on this 2-day, still plenty of zone to run up and actually find resistance at right now. Now turning on some technicals as well for this 2-day chart, you can see how we were at an extremely low level on this RSI. Not obviously oversold like we were back before this rally actually started, but we are at the lowest point so far since we actually had our low back in the fall. And right now, looking at a pretty nice cross so far below the 20 line on the stochastic RSI, hoping to get that nice bullish cross and follow through right now play out, showing that we are going to get a little bit more upside pressure, especially if we can see this RSI actually maintain a little bit more of that. On the RSI, getting a little bit of a broadening wedge right now as we do actually head to the downside. So actually to see, what we would love to see is a run up, a pullback, and then a break. So typically this is a strong scenario when we do look at broadening wedge type formations, whether that be candles or in this case on the RSI. Flipping over into the weekly chart, just really can't say enough good things about this weekly chart. Definitely one of the stronger setups for the altcoin space right now, especially since we have been holding this 12-period EMA. Finally broke it on this big flush candle, but it does look like right now we are going to be in the scenario and the best possible setup to actually see a run up and a reclaim of that 12-period EMA support. Now, if we don't and we actually close the candle in just over 2 days and we do maintain 12-period EMA, that's not going to be the worst sign ever as well, because we would have the opportunity to see some follow through. But right now, big thing is just seeing all these lower shadows coming in between this gap between the 26 and the 12-period EMA. So despite losing 12-period EMA as closing support for this weekly chart for ICP, we know that this is still an extremely supportive zone as indicated by these lower shadows. So even looking at the lower shadows, for example, we're looking at a 15% downside on the shadow. To the upside, we're looking at over 18%. So lots of potential and a lot of dip buying every time we do see prices dip below that level to reclaim support. So for that right now, we're actually looking at a price level for closing support for 12,475. So every time prices did get below that 12,475 level, a lot of dip buying, and that's why we do have just all these lower shadows below these candles, and we are expecting a little bit more upside in that instance. So looking at that too, though, we are now going to be looking at a level of closing resistance as indicated by a lot of these upper wicks, and the price level for that's going to be 14.17.2. So that is going to be our big point of resistance, but like we said, that is going to match up right now with the 12-period EMA on this weekly chart for ICP. So big zone coming in right now. 12-period EMA is at 13.81. So between 13.81 and 14.17 is going to be pretty resistive right now in terms of a close. So we will be needing to eye those levels as we do approach the upcoming weekend as well. Now, the good thing and sign about this, though, is that we're actually looking at increasing bullish volume. But yet, if we look at the bearish volume, we're actually seeing a little bit more or less taper off in bearish volume. And that's even despite having such a big sell-off across crypto. Still didn't necessarily even get that much volume compared to the amount of bull volume that we've been seeing coming in. So still a lot of great things and signs coming out of this ICP chart. Now, right now, we're not necessarily, like we talked about, expecting a run up to the current trend high. But right now, if we can break this zone between 13.81 and 14.17, that's going to be one of the big signs that we look at. And that's going to be a huge level and zone for prices to actually start to maintain above that in order to actually get a retest and a potential test of this $20 psychological level for ICP. Now we're looking at the Bitcoin halving coming in about just over 6 hours. So right now, a little bit of a rally and an upside move from crypto as indicated by a lot of this green, but Bitcoin's also running into a lot of these EMA resistances after being in a very nice scenario and setup. So finally pulling back and establishing prices below the supportive EMAs. We're not looking at that great of a sign. So hopefully we can see this Bitcoin halving countdown actually have a little bit more bullish impact and follow through in order to get some more upside. Otherwise, we will be establishing and seeing this level as supportive, resistive. And obviously in that instance, we would need to reclaim it pretty quickly. Otherwise be in jeopardy of further downside. What we'd love to see is actually what we saw after the ETF sell-off, where we were below the EMAs, but then quickly actually within the next week, reclaimed those levels, consolidated before seeing the next leg of upside. So that would be the best case scenario. About a week of chop, reclaiming that, another week of chop, and then finally being on our way once again. That would be an extremely strong setup. So that obviously would have pretty good impacts on the rest of crypto, including this ICP chart here. So lots to be looking at, and probably about the same expectations in a bullish sense, where we would actually run up even in a worst case scenario, holding these EMAs as resistance, finally break through about a week or two of chop before finally seeing more upside. That's a good case scenario. Otherwise, if this continues to hold up as resistance, then we would be at risk of farther downside action. But like we said, the longer term weekly charts are still set up to be in bullish favoritism right now. So that is what we're expecting when we do talk about longer term price action. So with that actually is going to go ahead and wrap up our show today for ICP. Hope you all enjoyed. Let me know your issues, comments, questions, predictions, all that stuff down in the comments sections below. Do love getting back to each and every one of you. Also, don't forget to drop me a follow over here on Twitter at @coin_trades is the handle. Looking forward to chatting with everyone over there. That is going to wrap up the show for now, though, so hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you have not done so just yet. Do appreciate all the continued love and support, as always means so much. Stay safe, take care, and I'll catch you back in the next video.